Hello, fellow page tours, and welcome back to the Friday conversation. I think this is episode 157, and this time I'm here with Jose, who's the only one brave enough again to join me today. We really have an open floor topic, just a way for us to catch up and just recent talk what we're reading, what's going on, what we've been up to. So, Jose, thanks for coming by.
No, thank you for having me. This is all turning out to be, I don't know, it's all per chance. Like whenever you're on your own, I happen to
Yeah,
show up, but it's not like I feel sorry for you or anything like that. Like, oh, there's no one else. I'll talk to Steve. But it's happened a couple of times already. Strange.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Someone takes pity on me, so that's cool.
That's okay. At least you go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining.
I'm sorry, it had to be me.
No, I was right before we started recording. I asked you, do you have any topics in mind? And you're like, no. It's like, well, neither do I. So we'll just kind of see what happens. We always have a way of just, making a conversation out of nothing. So it's just a way to catch up. But yeah, so what have you been up to? How's everything going with the channel and with reading in general?
Okay, so everything has taken a little bit of a backseat at the moment because as I am not busy enough, what with regular job, wife, 2 under 11-year-old children, I have sort of been pre-accepted for a PhD at university.
Wow, congrats.
So it was an idea I had going in my head. And I didn't realize how cheap doing a PhD is over here, because basically you're on your own. You're doing the research on your own, and every so often your professor checks up on you, right? So I started writing a book, and then a colleague of mine is doing it, and she was like, oh, it's only 300 euros plus a couple of fees, but very small. So I was like, okay, I'll ask. So I approached a couple of professors that really liked my idea. So they said, start writing, and you'll enroll when the time opens in May, and that way, by the time September arrives, you've already got a head start on things. So then, obviously, I had to already send them some work. So I'm almost 30 pages into it, which is nothing. But now, whenever I got a little bit of time, I am sort of writing for my thesis. And busy, but still people approach, still authors and agents and stuff still wanna talk to me. So still try to keep the podcast and the channel going, but it's all just that little bit more complicated.
Yeah, I'd say. So you said you have a topic in mind for your PhD?
Yeah. Basically, before leaving the UK, I got involved with the pedagogy of mathematics in secondary up to high school education, because they were trying to adopt to some degree what they do in China, which they're always topping the charts, these international comparisons. So they were looking at how do they teach over there? What do they do? What can we incorporate? So I was part of that program. And obviously, Spain being 10 years behind everyone else, I was like, hey, I used to do this. I got involved with this. How about it? And they really liked it. And obviously, for us, I bring an element of international comparison that they haven't got. So they were like, yeah. Start writing straight away. Send us some work before the end of March. And it's just basically the pedagogy of teaching mathematics to hormonal teenagers. That's my title. Yeah. It's
Nice.
fun. It's fun.
Well, so it turns out that one other person at least doesn't mind talking to me. Jarrod, welcome to the episode. We just started recording, so you're fine.
Oh, good. Yeah. Busy morning. I probably only have a little while, but always happy to talk to you guys.
Nice. Thanks for making time. No one should have given me these buttons ever.
Someone is having way too much fun with the
So
soundboard.
ridiculous. So annoying. But yeah, Jared, we were just catching up with Jose, but how have things been going for you? Channel, reading, all that stuff in general.
You know me, I'm reading everything and anything that I that can get my hands on, and just having a good time with a lot of different variety, a lot of different books. Just finished Solaris. That was pretty cool. And reading another Jenny Wirtz series with the Cycle of Fire, and
wow.
And Sci-Fi Masterworks, and as you know, I'm reading a lot of comics.
Yeah, lots and lots of comics.
And Jarrod popped his cherry with Discworld.
I did, yeah. Small Gods. That was a good book. Good book. I like that.
Huh. I've always been curious about Discworld. What is it, like a 16-book series or something like that?
More like 41.
Oh, I'm thinking something else.
Small series.
No big deal.
Yeah,
no big deal. But it's one of those you can jump in and jump out, right? You don't have to read it in order.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's right.
Wow. Very nice. Yeah. So, and you're also traveling soon, right, Jared?
Yeah. Actually heading to ICFA on this coming week. The International Conference for the Fantastic and the Arts, and hoping to meet Jenny Wirtz down there, and as well as some other folks, and go to some some presentations and conferences on most of the presentations there are like graduate students doing their doing their spiel, and just presenting papers on different aspects of fantasy writing and stuff like that. The guest of honor this year is Ted Chiang, so that's going to be interesting. And I know in the past I've met Stephen Donaldson there and Stephen Erickson. I'm not sure if they're going to be there this year or not, but I know Jenny Wirtz is going to be there because she lives near there, and she usually does a little like a panel, table panel, talking about writing and stuff like that. So, and her husband Don Mates is the famous cover artist for a lot of books. He's also makes an appearance, and so it's a good hangout for a few days. Yeah.
Nice.
Expecting to see a video blog of the trip, Jarrod.
Yeah, I'm not very good with my phone, so I never really do that kind of thing. But maybe I'll get some pictures and throw them up there on the channel.
Just to make everyone else very jealous. Yeah.
Look at me where you can be. Yeah.
Exactly.
All these cool people. Yeah.
Mm.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yes, we were just catching up, but it's been a busy year. Reading lots of comics though. But also I was going to ask both of you. Is there? I've noticed there's been a couple of books in the last year or so that I've read and just reminds me why I enjoy reading. Just makes you happy to read it. It just doesn't feel. Not that other books weren't good or anything, but books that just make you kind of remind you why you like to read. Has there been a book that's kind of re-energized you?
Yeah, Jose, you go take this one.
No, I haven't really stopped reading, but sometimes it does feel a bit like I have to get through books because you have to get through the book and it feels a bit of a drag. But of late, the next Discworld book, after we roped you in, Jarrod, Lords and Ladies, it's a book that I started, it's taken me, I mean, they're not long books, but every time I closed it, during the day, I felt like, I wanted to get back to the book. I wanted to finish my my workday or finish with the kids, and really looking forward to picking up that book again. So Lords and Ladies has had that effect on me that I haven't felt for a long time. Like that, really wanting to get back to the book as soon as possible. I don't know why.
What about you, Jarrod? Has there been a book that's kind of re-energized you, remind you why you like to read?
I never need an excuse to read. I constantly have a book on my person, no matter where I am. So I really do enjoy it that much, and but I guess that my reading pace may differ depending upon what I'm reading. But I'm rereading The Gap Cycle by Stephen Donaldson this year, and those books I've just, like Jose said, I can't wait to pick it up again. Like it makes me actually do my task around the house faster because I want to get back to that book, to that, and it's not a joyous series at all. It's quite grim, but but it's so there's a certain intensity to it that I want that feeling. I want that tenseness as I'm going through it, as I'm reading through the pages, and that series delivers that tenseness. If that's what you're looking for, I'm not always looking for that. Sometimes I want to relax when I'm reading, but other times when I'm really into something, I like that intensity, and that series does that for me. But and then I'll go back to. I love the variety. You know what I mean? And then I go back to something else that's a little less tense, and you can read it and be a little more relaxed. And so it, I love the balance. And then you mix in comics with that, and it's like, and that's a different experience. And then so I like that as well.
Yeah, it's a balance. It's balance. When you started in the Gap Cycle?
I've already read 2.
Oh, you've already started. Okay.
Yeah. I would. I'm reading 1 a month.
Oh, okay. Oh, your book 3.
So I read the first 2, and I'm going to start the third one this the end of this month.
Wow. Quick. Yeah. The reason it made me think of this topic is because last year I read The Scroungers by Thomas J. Devins, and it was just it reminding me why I enjoy reading it. It didn't feel like a chore at all. And I've read other good books in between, but it was just a fun story. And sometimes we need something fun and entertaining. But this year it's been Carpenter in the Elven Forest by Alex French. I'm not much for comedy, but it's the comedy that fits me. It's the kind of smart-ass, sarcastic, kind of self-deprecating humor that it's just a fun read, just a good time. Sometimes we need just something funny and ridiculous at times to sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read Alex's book yet, but I think it's criminal. The Scroungers and the Dregs by Thomas hasn't been turned into a TV show or hasn't actually been picked up for publication. Those 2 novellas were a really, really good read. And like Jarrod said before, they're not exactly joyous. They're not fun or uplifting. But my God, did I enjoy reading those books?
Yeah, I've even thought about buying some smaller, lesser known indie books like that and just leaving them at the local used bookstore or at the local library or something, just to put them in someone else's hands. But yeah, there's some really good books out there. There's a ton of books being written. There's lots of bad ones too, though. So it's hard to find the good stuff in the avalanche of books that are available out there.
I was having a chat last week with Jeremy Zell. He's a sci-fi author. His 3rd book just came out. We were talking about in Spain, we had this piece of news, but apparently it's a common thing that 49% of published books in Spain sell zero copies in
Zero.
zero copies in bookshops because the bookstores can only display and promote certain books. There's only so much space. So a lot of books are just sitting there on the shelves and they're not selling because who's going to pick them up? Where does the promotion come from? And granted, a lot of these books may be like more educational stuff or more technical stuff, but for sure, some of those books are going to be, someone has written something and no one has picked it up.
Zero copies
in bookstores.
Wow. I know that there's some. I read I forget, it was a while back, but I read an article about published books, even that are available online anywhere you can look, and they sell under. I think what percentage? There was like 25 or 30% sell less than 50 copies or something like that. It was a very small amount of copies sold.
Yeah.
Who knew publishing was so tough? I mean, it's wild.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out a little bit more. Like I was talking to you, Steve, before going live, is the journey of trying to get published. There's a lot of work goes into it, and a lot of indie authors complain and moan that no one is paying them attention, that they got the book out there. But some of these authors, Brandon Sanderson, 30 rejections before his 6th novel got picked up. J.K. Rowling, 12 rejections. And these people are complaining at the moment because they haven't got a publishing deal. I had, it's been almost a month ago, J.D. Barker, you know him. So I was talking to him, 23 years working as a ghostwriter before getting published. There's a lot of work until you get there. And even when you get there, you can still get dropped by the publishers. So once you made it, it's a bit like sports. You have to stay there. You still got to try, and there's no guarantee that your next book's going to sell. So I think the publishing industry, behind the scenes, very few people know what's going on and how it actually works.
Yeah. I think some people have unrealistic expectations when they get into it, that they'll be the next huge author. And I'm sure there's some authors out there that write fantastic books that are better than Sanderson and J.K. Rowling, and no one knows about them because they've never been discovered. Some of it is just luck. I mean, some of the just right place, right time, right person picks it up, and it kind of, planets align and it happens to be you. But I'm sure there's lots of fantastic books out there we've never heard of because there's so many of them.
What is it, like 4 million published a year or something?
8 million.
8. Oh my God.
And now with AI, I'm sure there's even more. I'm sure that number has maybe even gone up because now people are using AI. Maybe not even editing them, just AI prompting them and printing them. So I'm sure that number is even higher now.
But I'm sure those 8 million books, a lot of them, like I said before, would be like technical stuff. I don't know, maybe like academic papers or academic journals that actually have got a very, very limited, almost zero readership, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know if you parse that out of those 8 million, how many are actually intended for mass market consumption.
Mm. Yeah, it's a ruthless business. I mean, I'm not sure how many emails you guys get every week on people asking for reviews or for interviews or whatever, but I get probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 a week inquiries. I'm sure you guys both get a fair amount of, either review requests or guest appearances or whatever. So, I mean, there's so many people out there screaming into the void, trying to get attention. It's tough. It's a tough business.
Yeah. I mean, if I wanted, I could be doing interviews every week. And sometimes I'm just going more by what the person is like or what they do than actually by the book, because I cannot spend all my time reading new books by indie authors or just published new authors. So sometimes like, oh, you are a forensic detective that has happened to write a book. I like the sound of you, or things like that.
Yeah. Well, you, Jarrod, you get a fair amount of requests.
Not too many. I'm kind of under the radar as far as channels and stuff go, but I have gotten some, and I have gotten some requests, for people to send me arcs and stuff like that. And I've accepted one or two of them, but I've also turned some away as well because it's a lot. It's, there's so, like you said, there's so much to read, and I've always pretty carefully curated what I'm gonna read, as far as what I'm gonna get into and stuff like that. And I know my taste pretty well after all these years, and so I know that there's gonna be a certain, book that's going to appeal to me, and so and it's not like and even within that framework, there's still a lot of variety for me to explore. So it's not like, because I know some people might worry about getting bored and getting into a bubble with their reading tastes, but I don't seem to have that problem because it still feels like I'm reading a good variety of stuff, and, including throwing in a history book there, a nonfiction, and so it's there's so many books that it's actually easy to curate to my taste because there's still that much out there, even within that limited individual framework of curating my own taste in books. So I can, it's pretty easy to tell just by reading a couple paragraphs whether or not something's going to appeal to your taste as far as prose and writing style and subject matter and what forth. So the stuff that I haven't agreed to like take in and read as far as request goes, that's I don't feel like I'm missing out, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, you have to be selective, and you can't read everything.
Right.
It's not possible. So you have to be selective. But I agree with what Jose said about guests. Most of it is the pitch. What is the book about? What's the perspective of the author that maybe it could be interesting for a conversation? What other topics can we cover? Is this something that people would want to listen to? And sometimes if it has a unique perspective or something, the book is about something that I'm interested in, or then it's more likely that I'll respond.
Yeah. I wanted to. I don't know if I'm going to pivot the conversation here, but Jarrod has mentioned something. What's your current mix of books look like at the moment?
I have I got some, it's fantasy, straight up fantasy, of course, science fiction. I'm reading both classic science fiction and stuff more modern. I read philosophy magazines sometimes, and I also am reading some contemporary fiction with that Vasha forced upon me, and which is fine.
Sounds about right.
And and I read and I read a lot of short stories, which is a different format in and of itself. And like I said, comics, which is another completely different formats and has a wide variety of genre as well. Like any crime fiction I read tends to come from comics because I prefer the visual medium when it comes to that. But and like I said, nonfiction. I do read history books quite frequently. I should up that more annually. I've been slacking on the history train lately, but I do love it.
Sounds like your days have 30 hours, Jarrod.
What's that?
Sounds like your days have 30 hours.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not all at once, but I do make the time. I purposely make the time to do that. I opt to read other than doing something else, like watching TV or fixing that leak in my roof or something like that. Who needs that, right? But and I kind of wish I could get in. This is a different subject, but I kind of wish I could get into audiobooks. So I would have actually more time, more reading that I can get done. But I still haven't gone there yet, and I don't know how to carve that time out, because I'm never doing anything for that long that I would. I'm never doing anything that mindless for that long that I would be able to pay attention to the audiobook and still keep myself occupied. So.
We have a thread on the forum of what are you currently reading, and Jarrod, whenever Jarrod posts, it's always like a list of like 10 books. It's like, wow.
Maybe five.
Well, it's like 7 or 8, and then there's about 15 comics that you're reading at the time.
Oh,
so it's like
these wild exaggerations.
No, I'm not exaggerating. I usually have like several books going on.
The proof is there, isn't it? Anyone can just go check. So
yeah, it's all there.
What about you, Steve?
Right now I'm reading. I was trying to read Steppenwolf by Herman Hesse. That's kind of on hold right now. I haven't touched it in a while. Reading Carpenter in the Elven Forest. There's some other books I wanted to start, like the Borges collection. I wanted to start that soon. I've just had a lot going on. Haven't had a whole lot of time to read, but mostly just been comics, just because it's quick to get in and out on comics. They don't take very long, and you feel like a sense of accomplishment when you can sit down and read for 15 minutes and you finish an issue of something. It's like, oh wow, I did something today. Yeah. So that's mostly been what it's been, just because it's easier for me to get into than sitting down and reading a novel. But of course, what's taking up most of my reading time is the Malazan Page Burners group read, because we're into Midnight Tides now, and I'm trying to keep up. I get through these chapters. We do about 100 pages a week. And I try and get through the chapters, and there's times when I think, okay, I think I pretty much get what's going on. Like there's lots of other things going, but I feel like I get it. And then we sit down to record the episode, and people are talking about things. I'm like, I didn't pick that up at all. I don't know. I don't know what you guys did. I read the right chapters? So there's a lot that I don't feel like I pick up, just because it's a different kind of read for me. I've always kind of not fully. I don't feel like I fully grasped that series.
No, I've realized this year how, and I think it's actually only the problem is Martin and Rothfuss. They've done a lot of damage to the fantasy genre by not finishing this series, because actually I'm reading the Sun Eater series as the books are coming out. And yes, they are chunky, and yes, they can be 700, 800 pages. But if you read them as they come out and you space them out over time, it's actually manageable. However, if you wait for one of these 7, 8, 10 book series to read one after the other, it can become quite the mountain. You see, all those books there, and it's quite intimidating. Whereas But because of Martin and Rothfuss, if you're going to wait for all those series to be done before tackling them, like I said, it becomes intimidating, and I think it puts people off.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's I enjoy reading books as they come out. and then waiting for the next one to a certain extent. And I like that feeling of getting something when it's new and reading it and knowing that there's going to be a continuation or not, depending upon whether the series ended or not. And there's something, I don't know, there's something viscerally pleasing about that. And the you're right about the intimidation factor with a completed series that's already out there. I have that kind of with Realm of the Elderlings, because I haven't I've only read the first book, and I'm like, oh wow, it's like 15 more of these things to go. and and I have all these other books I want to read, and I'm just like, when am I going to get into that? When am I going to find the time to put those ones aside and get into them when I want to read the new Malazan book that comes out later this year? I want to read that. I want to read, because I'm all caught up with that, so I want to read that, and I want to read if Janie Worth puts out a new book this year sometime. I want to get into that because I'm all caught up with her series, and so it's intimidating to say, okay, I'm going to read the Realm of the Elderlings, because there's stuff that I want to keep up with. And I wonder if that's kind of like maybe Steve, you can talk to this. I wonder if that's kind of like a comic book mentality almost, that you have to keep up with the latest issue, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's more of a collector, just wanting to be in the know and not miss anything on certain series or characters. I want to know, kind of be up to date on all the continuity. But yeah, it's I never really thought of it about how Rothfuss and Martin could prevent people from reading, because I definitely don't get into some fantasy books because they're big monsters, and it's like I'm not going to invest all that time in reading the series if I don't know if it's going to ever be finished, because I just don't. There's certain authors that like the Steven Ericksons of the world, or even Jenny Wirtz, that when they start something, I'm fairly confident, pretty confident they'll finish it. But there's lots of books and series that are huge and long, and it's I don't know if this is ever going to be done. Like I haven't started Sun Eater, but it's been consistent. It seems like there's a consistent pace, so that helps. But
it's finished.
It's finished. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I suppose I'm guessing maybe to the last season of the younger reader, newer into the genre. You've got your sort of basic starting points, and if everyone is talking about Game of Thrones, or everyone is talking about, whatever the name of the series is, Kingkiller Chronicles, and you go, oh, they haven't finished, so why would I pick out a different series that hasn't finished, even though those authors are way more likely to finish?
Gotta run, guys. Sorry.
Be good, Jarrod.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's yeah. But go ahead and continue with your point.
No, it was just that, whether for the newer reader to the genre, they get put off from picking up new series by different authors.
Yeah, I can see that, how it would defer people or prevent people from maybe investing more time into certain series that they may otherwise have read, just out of curiosity. But a lot of these books are, when you're dealing with a series of 5 to 10 books, and each book is 800 to 1,000 pages, it's an investment.
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose you never know what's going to happen. The Gentleman Bastards was going really well, and then unfortunately Scott Lynch went through some personal stuff, and that series got literally stuck halfway through, although the next book is coming out. But yeah, that's another book that you've been waiting 10, 12 years for, or something along those lines. And they are big hitting. They become big for a reason, I suppose. They got their appeal. They become very popular, and those are the ones that hook new readers in, and they are the ones that stop getting published. So I understand why they might put people off.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that too. I can see it can make putting people off. And there's just so many of them right now. There's so many books out there. And you mentioned earlier about, more of the independent authors complaining about not being seen or not being, and that's for me, that's one of the most off-putting things I can see. I'm not on social media, but when I hear about that, kind of through the grapevine, it's just like, that's not, I mean, I'm sure you might get a copy or two, just people wanting to help you out, but that's not a way to build a readership. And
No,
it doesn't
I
make me want to read your book anymore.
I found that out on Threads. I think that for me, I can see a lot of that on Threads. Um,
Hmm.
I've got very little social media presence, but I say that if Twitter is where conversation goes to die, Threads is where indie authors go to moan. That's that's what I see.
Yeah. And on one hand, on one hand, I get it. Like you invest so much time and money and energy into something and you sell 5 copies and 2 of them are your family or friends and you have one review, you know, uh,
Mm,
I'm sure it's frustrating. I'm sure there's a lot of up and down and frustration and why won't people just give my book a chance? So I understand the desperation some people feel, I'm sure at times, but complaining on social media isn't the way to
yeah,
do it. It's not, it just makes you look unprofessional and, you know, it was funny because you see a lot of these authors with a huge following, like thousands of followers, and you check their book and they have 2 reviews.
yeah,
It's like, at what point does the social media following turn into readership? Because they're not the same. You can have thousands of followers and nobody gives a shit about your book because they're just there to comment on your posts or tell you to keep going. And it's like, oh, that's great and everything, but that needs to convert to a readership, not a popularity contest online. That, if you're there to sell books, then, but yeah.
yeah. No, and I think I've always said, rightly or wrongly, that writing is a low risk, low reward activity. Wor- Worst case scenario, all you're gonna waste is your time, and even that shouldn't be seen as a waste of time because you're investing time in something you enjoy doing, presumably, which is writing. So writing is almost a zero risk activity.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, if you want to promote it and you're gonna pay for someone to do a bit of proofreading, your social media, all that stuff, then yeah, you can go crazy spending money that way, which I suppose is a necessity even to this day. But even published authors, like, why would I be interviewing J.D. Barker, someone whose first novel went on auction for seven figures, whose rights have been bought to be turned into series or movies or whatever? Why is he talking to me? Ring-a-ding podcast in the middle of the internet. So even those people are having to go around talking to YouTubers, podcasters, etc. So if traditionally published authors, successful ones, are talking to people like you and me, what's an indie author got to complain about?
Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, I think some people have unrealistic expectations on what this will turn
Yeah,
into. And if if you're working a normal full-time job and writing on the side, I mean, I think it's great that people are creative and people get their creativity out there and they create something. It's something to be proud of. But I also understand that the odds of you getting any kind of traction are pretty slim. I mean,
yeah,
there's just so many books. There's so many people out there, you know, trying to sell their books that it's hard to stand out. But I think the I see some people who have been on social media for years and years and years since I've been doing this, and they're still in the same place. They haven't gone it. I mean, they're on social media. They have 10,000 followers or whatever, and they have all these comments on their posts and all this, interaction and where they were 10 years ago, they're still same place now. It hasn't translated into any kind of really progress. They're still kind of doing their thing, and that's great. But I just think, there's other ways to get yourself out there, and I don't think throwing a fit on social media and acting like an unprofessional whiner is just not the way to go about it. It's not. It doesn't make most people want to buy your book. If they're going to buy your book, they're buying it out of pity, and they probably won't ever read it.
And publishers do look at your social media footprint. So if you make comments like that, or you come across like that kind of person, you're not doing yourself any favors.
No, I know lots of agents and producers, and they all look at that kind of thing. And if you're someone who's online acting like an asshole, then the odds of you being approached are less and less, because they don't want to deal with that. I mean, they don't want to deal with a bunch of people who are just there for a popularity contest and out there to perfect their craft. So, it's just it's sad and it's funny at the same time.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I've heard several times that it takes you, 4 to 6 books, what they call, to find your own voice as a writer. So, oh man, just because you've written one book, it doesn't mean you've done it or you've made it. Yeah, 6 books. Whoa. How many years are we talking about there?
Probably 5 to 10 years of writing to make that.
Closer to 10 than to 5, isn't it?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's lots of great indie books out there. I mean, there's lots of books I've read and I've really liked. And there's also been lots of books that just weren't good and they needed help. And I'm no literary expert, but when a book is, you can tell when a book is just not polished. It's just not there yet, So, and no judgment. I mean, people should do what they want. If they want to write bad books, it's up to them. But it's a tough business to get into.
And understanding what an editing process is. Editing is not just checking grammar and spelling. When I last talked to Christopher Rocchio, they took 60,000 words out of his penultimate book. That's a whole novella. That's a whole novella coming out of one book. And Jeremy Zhao, he was telling me that he did it on purpose. By the last book in his trilogy, he wrote like a massive chunker, and his editor took out 200,000 words.
200,000 words.
Yeah, because he wrote like a 400,000 word book just because he knew he could, because it was the last book in the trilogy, and he just put it all out there, knowing that it will have to get trimmed back, and they literally halved the book.
Wow.
But that's what an editor does, isn't it? It's not just checking spelling and grammar, and you have to have I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but the humble pie, or you have to have the acceptance to listen to what people got to tell you, and to change, cut, rewrite, and take all that on board.
Yeah, I think, and editors aren't cheap. If you can get an editor, but you also need a good editor, and good editors can be a little pricey. So that's another expense that you need an editor. Everyone does. Everyone needs an editor. I don't care who you are. Stephen King needs an editor. I mean, everyone needs an editor. So if you're not willing, it's another expense. It's another thing that you have to consider and invest in if you are serious about what you're writing. And it's just going to make it better.
Absolutely. But talking about indie authors, and when I was having all these conversations, none of the ones that hang around page 2 exhibit these traits that we're talking about.
No, thankfully. And I think it's because what we have on the forum is pretty small. It's not, there's not a lot of back and forth or whining. It's just people talking. And that's why I like the group we have, because it's just, and like Birthday Treat by Anthony Self. That's another fantastic book that more people should read. There's lots of like Susanna's book was good too. So, it's nice to have people who aren't there to flex their digital muscles and just there just wanting to talk and interact.
Yeah.
They don't
Absolutely.
have a persona. It's not about a persona or a digital presence. It's just people talking
Yeah,
shit.
absolutely. Oh man. Um. So, what comics are you reading? Are you reading recently?
Oh wow, I've been reading too many, too many
Uh,
comics. Um, I've, I actually, I don't know if you've kept up, but the last week my pick of the week was actually the new Batman by Matt Fraction,
oh,
which took me by surprise. Did not see that coming.
okay. No, in terms of Batman, because I mentioned the DC Pocket editions, which are not. I mean, they're smaller, but they're not that much smaller than your regular size comics, and they are full arcs. So I picked up a few of those to test them out. They're pretty good value for money. Um,
Hmm.
so been reading those, and I picked up it's the one I quite enjoyed it. It's like is it 19th century Batman? What, am I being ridiculous for not remembering? Got Gotham by Gaslight, I think it was.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet, but there's lots and lots of arcs out there. But there's so many. I'm not really big into superheroes anymore. Well, I never really have been, but yeah, there's a few good arcs out there, like superhero arcs
Mm,
or books.
yeah, and then I've seen. Maybe I'm very late to the game. I'm thinking about it. They've re-edited and done like I think it's 7 volume compilation of the original uh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Really?
Yeah, they've done some. Okay, so there's like the expensive Ultimate Hardback Collection, which is 7 volumes. But I think they've also done the trade paperback version, and it's like the original run by the two original creators when they published in a sort of indie format. So I'm very curious about that.
I've heard it's very violent. That it was not a children's story. The way that it,
Not like
because you watch the movies and the movies are geared more towards a younger audience. But I've heard, I haven't read it. I've heard that it was really violent and for adults.
well, you probably grew up like me with the cartoons from the 90s.
Yeah, and the movies,
But
yeah,
they were pretty cool, the cartoons.
yeah, they're all right. I was never really that big on the turtles. I thought they were kind of dumb, but um,
Ah,
I mean, it was there was they were. I didn't dislike them. I just didn't really. I wasn't like a super fan. I was just like, yeah, so they're okay.
yeah, I
But
don't know.
the Dan from the forum, I was talking to him recently before one of the Malazan recordings, and he had mentioned wanting to read Akira. I've never read Akira before.
Oh, that was my first ever contact with Japanese animation. My my uncle took me to watch it to the cinema in Madrid way back when, and I remember to this day I was wowed by the animation. You know, that Japanese style manga thing. But the end was weird. The end was weird as all hell. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, so
But
we were thinking about reading that, kind of getting something together to read that. Haven't read that one.
I've for the last couple of years, I've had a manga box set to dip in and out in between books. So I did Dragon Ball, the complete set, Dragon Ball Z, as you Americans will call it, and I just finished Death Note.
How was
Uh,
that? How'd you like it?
Death Note, I I enjoyed it more than Dragon Ball. I like the art more as well. I think, like with all these things, it just runs for a little bit too long. But because Death Note tries to be a self-contained story with a sort of an idea of, the 3 classical acts, beginning, middle, and end. There's no power creep. There's no
Hmm.
weird stuff that needs to keep churning. So that it's a self-contained story, and it has a lot more. narrative cohesion than Dragon Ball. Those are the local celebrations, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
what my town is going to sound like nonstop for the next 5 days. So we just get free roaming children with boxes full of firecrackers, just
Oh,
setting
okay.
them loose on the streets. Yeah.
I thought they were coming for you.
Possibly, if you're not careful enough when you walk down the street. So, so Death Note, I was surprised, and it's also got like deeper themes to get you thinking, which is something I appreciate these days. I've realized I don't like reading stuff just for entertainment.
Yeah.
Because once you've read them, like, what do you do with it?
Yeah, it's disposable.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel a lot of superhero comics are, is disposable. Nothing really has consequence. The heroes will live and they'll go on to the next series or whatever. And there's not really any kind of suspense or tension because they're going to be fine.
Oh, but also when I was interviewing J.D. Barker and we were talking about thrillers, I was asking him, and he was like, "Nah, I've got no intention of trying to be profound or say anything. I'm purely writing to entertain." And I was like, "Well, all right then." So I don't know. I think thrillers, particularly, is a genre that is just completely disposable. Once you've read a John Grisham novel or a James Patterson novel, you might as well just give it away, isn't it?
Yeah, I think some people enjoy that though. I think some people like to have, because with a thriller you have that you have some kind of suspense and you have this tension that's built within the story, but when the story's over, that's it. But I think some people just enjoy that, this get in and get out and go on with my day, not have anything else that really the story is a little bit disposable. But the same thing with things like superhero comics, or it's more of a comfort food. It's more of a something familiar and you don't have to think too much about it. So I get that side of it too, but I definitely look for things that have some kind of substance to them that will keep me thinking long after I finished it.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So Akira, so I'm just looking now to see if I can. But that's long, man. I'm looking at, what are we actually talking about? The whole manga.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't it was just it was a kind of a mention
Right, that's an
a few
idea.
weeks ago, but yeah.
And,
I think it's a long one. But not too long, right? I don't think it was long like Berserk.
I've got. So there is a. Why? There's a box set, but it's bloody hardcover for $160 for the whole box, the whole thing, which is actually quite cost efficient.
Yeah, I'll probably pick it up digitally. Let's see if I can find it digitally.
But not hardcover. I'm not. I might.
Yeah, I'll let's see. Volume 1 through 6. Digital is, I don't have a digital option on Amazon. Never mind. I'll have to do some searching for it, but
yeah, there's been a few things I've been trying to see if I can get into. I wanted to do Sin City by Miller.
Me too.
Because I've always been interested by the approach he took to the artwork in that series. So I've been wanting to get that, and also Gotham Central. I'm always playing between those two, which one to get into.
I wouldn't mind giving Sin City a run. I actually bought it digitally not long ago. Because Jarrod and I were reading Frank Miller's Daredevil, the arc.
Yeah.
And that got me curious about Miller and his artwork and his style. And when I first saw Sin City way back, I don't know, 20 years ago, it didn't really appeal to me, or however long ago it was. it didn't really appeal to me. The art didn't catch me, but now I have a more of appreciation for it and more curious about it than I was before. After learning more about his art style and what he's into.
Yeah, it changed a lot, hasn't it, over the
Yeah.
years? Did you watch the Sin City movies?
I saw the first. I think I saw both of them. They were okay. They seem to be more uh, style over substance. But I wanted to also rewatch those movies after I read the books.
I I enjoyed the visual style
Mhm.
of the. I think Robert Rodriguez is quite creative filmmaker.
Yeah.
He does interesting stuff, isn't it? Um, and I think these days it's nice to see something different because we don't get much variety or anyone taking any risks.
Do you think the Sin City movies would be made today?
That's the eternal
I don't. No,
question, isn't it?
I don't think they would be. I don't think we'd have things like Sin City.
Because I was watching a couple of days ago, the Critical Drinker put out the review for Project Hail Mary. And what he was mentioning is that the alien character in the movie, they've done it through animatronics instead of CGI. And it just looks so much better. Like animatronics age so much better than CGI. And from what I saw of the trailer, it looks pretty real.
Hmm.
I think the movie will age quite well.
Yeah, CGI. You can look at CGI and you can pretty much guess the time period it was made in. But things like Jurassic Park, where they use the huge animatronics, I think that's why movies like that are still popular today because they didn't rely as heavily on CGI.
The original Alien by Ridley Scott looks even better than the third entry in the series.
Yeah, yeah. You mean the third for the prequels?
No, because they did Aliens, and what was the third one?
Oh, Alien 3.
Yeah, whatever it's called, Resurrection or
Oh no,
Insurrection.
that's just Alien 3. I think the
Okay.
another one after that is Alien Resurrection, and then they had Covenant. No, they had
Prometheus,
uh,
Covenant.
Prometheus, Covenant, Romulus.
I haven't watched Romulus. I've got so lost on what the Alien series was trying to do. What was the? I think I don't know.
They need to leave it alone. It's just gone way too far off the rails, and they've tried to do too many things with it. They tried to all those movies take place before the events of Alien. They've tried to kind of bridge the gap between Prometheus and Alien, but also Alien Earth was another one that was supposed to happen after the original Alien, and that was a mess. I don't know if you watched Alien Earth.
No, because it to me makes no sense. I don't understand the internal timeline. I don't understand philosophically what they're trying to do. And I thought Covenant. I didn't understand Covenant. I didn't get what the deeper theme, what the philosophical underpinnings. I didn't understand that scene where the alien drinks the magic potion and then dissolves himself into the rivers. I did not get any of that. I didn't understand that. So, meh.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. I think one of the mistakes really Scott made with that series is trying to focus so heavily on synthetic life and androids and this artificial life thing. Why do you want to introduce a whole nother aspect? Like, so the android, the synthetic portion of it worked for aliens because of Bishop, but when we go back to Prometheus, that's a huge focus on the story. It's like you're trying to mix Blade Runner with aliens instead of just letting Alien be Alien and Blade Runner be Blade Runner and have mentions of it. You can have it incorporated in the story, but it became such a huge part that it just and like in the original Alien, we have the space jockey, and for years I remember reading message boards back in I don't know way long ago about what the space jockey was and where did he come from and what does it mean and all that was really fun. And then we find out what it is in Prometheus, and it's like that's kind of dumb. Like that's pretty stupid, you know.
Yeah,
And it didn't make sense. It didn't match up. None of the story doesn't. There's, and yeah, so it's a mess. They should
yeah,
have left it alone.
there's no internal cohesion to the series. That's
No, it's
pretty.
too up and down. They should have kept Ridley Scott away from it. The Blomkamp idea they had before Prometheus. I don't know if you saw that back, I don't know, 10 years ago.
No.
They were going to retcon Alien 3 and they were going to bring back Sigourney Weaver, Hicks, and Newt. And they were going to have them they were going to they're going to somehow retcon Alien 3 and pick up after the events of Aliens. But Neil Blomkamp had these storyboards and artwork and stuff. And even Sigourney Weaver was signed up for it. She was going to come back for it. And they had all I don't know about the Newt character, but I know the other actors were on board with it, but they decided to give it to Ridley Scott instead. And here we are.
I'm pretty checked out of new releases and movies. I don't really watch many movies at all these days, or even TV shows. I used to a lot more, but now there's nothing interesting, and they've messed up so many of these fantasy adaptations that they've done as well that I'm not excited about anything anymore.
No, I think the last movie I saw in the theater was the first was what 28 years later. The
No,
original, the first one, and that the end of that one just like okay, I can't. I think that's the last movie I saw in the theater, and nothing else has really interested me. But yeah, the fantasy I got the new Game of Thrones. What is it, Duncan Egg? So haven't even kept up with that at all. I have no interest in it.
Yeah. No, nothing. I think everyone tried to jump on the bandwagon of Game of Thrones. Amazon tried to find its own Game of Thrones. They try with Wheel of Time. They try with whatever Lord of the Rings crap they tried to do, and it just doesn't work.
I think the Witcher was the most disappointing one because it had I wasn't a huge fan of the show, but it had a promising start, and then it just really went downhill. I just stopped watching it.
But it's always the same. The source material is successful for a reason. So if you adapt the source material faithfully, the core fans will attract, the people in the periphery. That's my theory. But if you alienate the core fans, the casuals are not going to jump in.
It's too bad. I think they even kind of told the author to bugger off, let them do what they want with it.
And he got ripped off. Sapkowski got very little money for The Witcher. I think, be his fault, but I don't think he had a very good agent, or he messed up the negotiations, but he didn't get, possibly what you might think would be sort of fair compensation for selling the rights. I suppose we can all make mistakes.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing a lot of it is not knowing the business or not having someone to advise you, and people will take advantage of you. Somebody like was it Netflix? They're not gonna.
Yeah,
they're gonna make their money.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, I think the variety is just not there right now in entertainment. Well, it's there, but it's hard to find.
Yeah. You know what I haven't read? I don't know if it's a genre that never existed or it had its time, but a good old pirate book or a good old pirate movie. Well, what's up with that? Why can't we have pirates?
What was the book? There was a series. Was the Bone Ships or I'm not sure if that was more pirate or more fantasy, but I wish we had more in that time period of the pirates and kind of sea warfare. We need more of that. We need a pirate comeback.
I think they had because they had a period. Those were kind of the books I think that my dad read as a young kid. The Sandokan Adventures and um, the Tarzan books and all that sort of stuff. I think that had its time, and they seem to have been discarded and forgotten.
Yeah, it's too much. It's too sad. It's too bad because I think there's lots of stories that could be told, and it's something different. I think the fantasy, much like the superhero bubble, I feel like the superhero bubble popped, and I kind of feel like the fantasy bubble is about to pop too. I just feel like there's for mainstream audiences, I think they're starting to reach the point where they're going to completely lose interest, even if another series comes out that's really good. I think a lot of people are checked out on it just because of all the disappointments.
I think I'm going back to all the series or all the books. I don't even wanna read series anymore. I'm just going back to uh, Farther and the Grey Mouser by Fritz Leiber. I want to go back to The Broken Sword by Paul Anderson. Anything post 2005, I'm really not interested.
Yeah.
Save with a couple of rare exceptions. If Scott Lynch comes up with a new book, I'll be all over that like a Tijuana hooker. But maybe it's like standalones by Guy Gabriel Kay, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, it's I wonder if that's the kind of the normal transition for readers is that they have a genre they're interested in, and then they start to branch out and their reading tastes evolve over time. And yeah, it's I think especially when you get older, you realize that time is finite, and you can't possibly read everything. So you have to choose what you read more carefully.
No, you're right. And I think we've talked about it before, that the more you read into any specific genre, the more you realize that there's very few gems, a lot of mediocrity, and some really bad stuff that is better not to touch with a 10-yard pole. So
Especially now with AI, people writing books with AI are leaving AI prompts in their book, things like that. It's you never know what there's more books now that it's harder to filter through it and find the good stuff. So
yeah,
the safe bet is, like you said, to stay with the stuff you know.
Yeah, and this, and I think we said it before as well, isn't it? There's enough good fantasy reading out there that you could just read that, and you have enough for the rest of your life. I think someone told me off for saying this, but if everyone stopped writing new books today, I think there's enough there for future generations to have a good time.
Oh yeah.
Possibly it was some new author that told me that. That wasn't happy with my statement, but yeah, sure, someone will have a good book in waiting, but I don't know. If you started all over again, Steve, would you take possibly the same reading journey you've taken so far?
No, I would have been much more selective with what I chose to read, and I would have been. I think, like your reading tastes. Like Jared had mentioned, you know how to curate and choose the things to read. But I would have been much pickier with the things that I decided to read, and not taking so many chances on unknowns. But don't get me wrong. There's some books I took chances on that were unknown that I really liked. That so you get those winners are there, but there's so many books I read that just were not that good. And
Yeah, but,
I, you know,
but you don't know that until you've read the book. That's the same.
that's what's hard about it. Yeah.
That's it.
Another thing I would have changed that I definitely would have done differently is I would have DNF'd more books.
Yeah. That's my regret. I don't know if whoever else suffers from this. I'm sorry. It's like the complete inability to DNF a book.
Yeah, I would have had when I start to wonder, this is really going nowhere, or this is just not very good. I'm just not really into this. I should have just set it down and picked up something else instead of pushing through for whatever reason it was, pushing through and getting to the end and thinking, I just wasted 10 hours of my life and lots of time. I could have been doing something else or reading something else. When I knew I wasn't going to like this book, and I suffered through it.
And the only thing you can say is that you've got a good enough reason to not like it because you've actually finished it. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm thinking, I mean, how many books have you read that you've gotten, let's say, a quarter through, and you thought, I don't know if this is for me. I just don't really like this. And then you got to the end and you thought, I really like that book. I mean, how many times has that happened?
Once that I can remember clearly, but it happened to me with the whole series, which was Joe Abercrombie. Because I was not impressed at all with the first book, but possibly because I didn't understand it. I think it was my first sort of really grim, dark book that I had read. Because Game of Thrones, you can argue, but Game of Thrones is so good that it actually escapes any label. It was just so good and so gripping. But what was the first book called on the first level? Whatever it's called. Anyway, I read it and it was like, I don't know. And then as I carried on, the second trilogy, the Age of Madness?
Age of Madness, yeah.
I possibly liked it even better than the first one.
Wow.
Particularly, and especially the second book there, which is, I think you gave up around that point, didn't you?
Yeah, I tapped out. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. But then we have very different opinions about the standalones in the middle as well.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of those either. I thought the original trilogy was fine. I thought it was okay. It didn't blow my socks off. I thought it was entertaining. It was fine. I actually liked the first book, and the third book was pretty good too. It was pretty good. I didn't like the conclusion. Didn't like the end, but I was okay with it. I mean, it didn't ruin my experience because of the end, but I thought it was fitting. But yeah, the second trilogy and the standalones I just could not get into.
So what book did you manage to plow through and end up saying, oh yeah, that was worth it?
Yeesh. You know, I was trying to think of one that I just did not like that I ended up loving, and I can't think of one offhand. I'm sure there is one, but it doesn't happen very often. That tells you how often it happens. And I think 98% of the time when I've gotten through a book halfway and thought, I'm really not into this, I got to the end and I said, I should have just given up. Like I should have just DNF'd this. But you know, a lot of, some of it is when you read a certain story, it for whatever reason, a certain time in your life or mindset you're in, you don't enjoy it, but you come back later and you may enjoy it if you come back to it. So just because you DNF something doesn't mean that you can never pick it up again. This means I don't want to read this right now, and you can come back to it later.
That is true. That is very true. Particularly possibly at a younger age, where maybe you still haven't developed fully your thinking brain or your appreciation brain or anything like that. Because it's happening to me with the Discworld series. Reading a second time round, 20 years after the first time, you pick up so much more things that completely passed me by. There was one page in the last book I read where there's a conversation between a few characters. And it was so blatantly obvious. I don't know why I didn't remember it, but everybody's saying like weird directions. And the last person in the conversation says, there I'm back again. And I'm going, God, all of these must be literary references. But I only picked the obvious one at the end. And first time round, I did it. So then I'm trying to investigate what other literary references, every other sentence that the different characters in the conversation are saying relate to. So there's little gems and little bits that I think you pick up also the more you read. And the broader your reading palette, you pick up a lot more things. Certainly in this group, but I'm sure certainly in other books as well.
That's very true. I almost feel so. I understand why some people stick to a certain genre. I understand why some people stick to. I will just read thrillers. I will just read fantasy. I will just read horror, and I get that. If you like that genre, then read what you want to read. But in some ways, I feel like you miss out on so many other great stories and books that maybe fantasy adjacent that you would still get into, but you may not pick up because it's not labeled as fantasy or it's not labeled as thriller or whatever. So I think the broader you read, the more appreciation you have, and the more that you can kind of experience. So
Mhm.
it's a little sad when people just read one certain genre and they don't experience the wide variety of so many great stories out there. And even classics, a lot of people don't read classics. And to be honest, classics intimidated me a little bit when I first really got back into reading because a lot of the classic YouTube channels were really snooty and kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, nose in the air and oh, we're better than you because we read classics. We're better than you. And it kind of turned me off. But when I started getting more into classics and reading classics, like there's lots of good, it takes a little bit more to get into sometimes because of the writing styles, but it's so fulfilling when you get through something that is considered a classic. You get through like 1984, or you get through Frankenstein, or these classics that were written centuries ago. Then it's like that's really good stuff.
And sometimes it's okay to not like him, and it's
Yeah,
okay to criticize him. But you are right, because I've read all those I've got them all down there. I've read them all the Russians, all the Americans. I've read them all, and they're obviously classics for a reason. So,
hmm
but none of us here are literary scholars, so
no,
we're not going to pick up on the minutiae of it. But they do say certain things about the human condition that you miss completely
yeah.
in other things. And I was going to say something about that, but I lost my train of thought. So do carry on.
Oh no, I think the whole attitude that some people carry with classics that kind of I'm better than you because I read classics and I'm so much more sophisticated than you and ha ha ha. Ha. I think that just that's not going to bring people into to sharing what you love and to experience things that you enjoy if you have that kind of holier than
I've,
thou I'm better than you attitude.
I've been in conversations like that, uh, but you have to surround yourself with sort of li- like level people.
Yeah,
Like with those Borges stories, if you and I sit down, we're more or less going to be on the same level. However, and I've been there, you invite some literature professor to discuss Borges, you and I are just going to listen. This is going to become more of a lecture
yeah,
than a conversation. Um, and it sort of depends on what you're looking to get out of the so-called conversation, because it's going to be more one-directional in that scenario.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It would be more of a learning experience for me because there's lots of. I mean, I've only read a couple of the Borges stories, and I was like you said. You mentioned that you had done a couple of discussions
Mm-hmm.
about a few of the stories, and they're not long, but there's so much packed into the stories that you can talk for hours about what it may mean or the meaning behind it all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They're,
there's
they're,
lots of things.
and the thing is, they're very open. Well, I don't know if they're very open to interpretation, but certainly different people interpret them differently. And then we go back to the old argument: is there a correct interpretation, or were they left open to just get you thinking and blah 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 blah? And that's a completely different episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's and yeah. I think it all depends on what the intention was, or was it so we can ask ourselves that question just to
Mhm.
get conversation going. So
Yeah, absolutely. But Borges wasn't so highbrow either, because he used to write about football in a magazine in Argentina. So
hmm,
there you go.
wow,
Um,
he's just like us, or he was just like us.
although he would philosophize about the true character of the Argentinian footballer and what kind of player represented the true national character. So maybe he wasn't so much like us after all. But there you go.
You know what's funny is for authors or kind of famous authors or famous people in general. I think where there's this mystique, there's this mystery around a lot of people who are like, the Borges or the Cormac McCarthy's or the whoever, insert author here. There's this big mystery behind them, and I wonder what they thought about this, and I wonder what they thought about that, and I wonder what they were like, or But now with social media and people on social media, that mystique, that kind of that sheen is broken, and that you don't wonder what Stephen King thinks about XYZ topic because he talks about it online on whatever platform he's on now and complains about it. And it's like that kind of, in a way, I think it makes it kind of breaks down that mystery that made people feel like they were larger than life. And now they just seem like another old guy yelling about things he disagrees with online.
I think, well, I never thought about that. I always just care about the book.
Right.
But I think the only position I respect is the one where you're neither happy with left or right, and just accept that they are both two sides of the same coin, and that the average person here, you and me, are getting both screwed, left or right, and that's it. But these people can afford to be critical of anyone and everyone because they are in a position of total financial independence.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's the only position I respect.
Yeah.
Any famous person, any sportsman, author, whatever, clearly positioning themselves one side or the other, I just don't respect. It's that Ricky Gervais speech at the Golden Globes, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're in no position to lecture anyone about anything.
Yeah, they have no idea what it's like to be a normal everyday person. They have everything they could want, but I think most people are just normal, hardworking people trying to earn a living and trying to live their lives. And I think there's a vocal minority on both sides of the coin who get all the attention, but most people are in the middle who, like you said, realize that the whole system is rigged. It's all a big game, and we are getting bent over, and we're the ones who get screwed. And none of them give a shit about any of us. It's like, I think most people realize that they pick the lesser of two evils, and they try to find one that will help them the most, knowing that they're going to get screwed no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I just don't know. And once again, we are really digressing here, but the answer cannot be, whoever can, save yourselves. I think we're coming to a point where we need a rethink of the system.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's the one thing that AI has brought about is those fake videos of Donald Trump.
Oh.
I love them.
it's kind of scary. Honestly, it's kind of scary on you can't tell the difference anymore on what's real. I mean, you can tell, but it sometimes is hard.
Yeah, but did you see him? The one with Donald Trump dressed up as an Ayatollah, but with the American flag.
I didn't see that.
No, it's brilliant. So it's Donald Trump dressed up as an Ayatollah, but with the star and stripes. He's all in the star and stripes colors, and he's going "Salam alaikum, bitches." So that's a source of much merriment. But yeah, it's kind of black humor with everything that is going on.
Yeah, it's wild. What's going on right now is wild, but it's, with the AI, you don't know what's real anymore. You unless it's obvious, unless it's over the top ridiculous, like the video you just mentioned.
Exactly.
Of course, exactly. You know that, but things that you see videos, you see pictures, and you just like you have to look carefully. And I don't think most people take the time to look, and they just take things. They glance at it and walk on and think that.
I have seen a lot of videos where people are getting fooled, particularly these body transformations, people that were obese and there's a montage of them going to the gym and this and that and the other, and then they get super fit at the end. And there's a lot of people going, "Oh wow, you go girl, you go man, whatever." And there's a few comments there going, "Clearly AI. Look carefully at such frame, this, that, the other." So a lot of people are getting fooled, and this is
Mm.
small things, but we are going there. We're getting
Yeah.
there.
It's a little wild. I know that people think the AI bubble will burst, but I don't know if it will. I don't
I
know if
don't
it's
know.
going to burst.
I'm interviewing an author on Thursday, I think it is, who she's an AI tech. She's like an industry AI person who's written a book, some futuristic dystopia type thing. Again, we'll talk about the book, but before that, there's going to be at least half an hour chat on a Skynet. That's for sure.
Yeah. Skynet. Yeah, but it's wild what's going on. But as it relates to books, I know a lot of people online are angry about AI book covers, and they'll refuse to buy a book with an AI cover. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think, unfortunately, book covers get screwed as well because, okay, but we had the case of Thomas where he commissioned a cover for his book and the artist had used a stock photo and his cover ended up looking very, very similar to someone else's book. So he had to go and recommission it and pay again or whatever it was. I don't know how he sorted that out. So what's the difference? And it's always a spectrum and where do you draw the line? And if it's here, why not there or the other side? And what's the difference between using stock photos and AI?
There really is no difference using stock photos or AI. I mean, I think one at least so with stock photos, I guess you have to at least find them and drag them onto your Canva template or whatever you're using and resize. And so I mean, it takes a little bit more effort, but I
Right?
mean, I
You're
don't
gonna,
know what the difference is.
why exactly? I mean, I think both you and I agree there is some sort of difference, but it's so marginal that I don't know. I think it wouldn't stop me from buying a book. I think if it was an AI cover, but I do have issues with reprints or new editions of all the books where they change the covers. I see the book and the cover as it's part of a product. It's the whole package.
Mhm.
When you buy music, reissues of CDs or vinyls, you don't get new covers. You've got the old cover of the CD or the record. Why are we getting shitty? And the covers are getting shittier. They're not getting better.
They are. Yeah. They're not
Um,
getting better.
you're not going to improve on a Mike Whelan cover. You're not going to improve on a Josh Kirby original Discworld cover. You're only going to go down from there. So why are we doing this?
Yeah, I
And
think they feel like they have to go more modern and go with the current trends to catch people's attention instead of just like you said going with the classic cover that I think most people would recognize anyway.
but yeah, but again, it's weird. Would you change the cover of a DVD for a movie? Would you change? I don't know. I don't know why it happens with book covers. It bothers me.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they do that. And then whenever a movie or TV show is released, they'll change the cover for that and they'll slap a big stupid sticker on it. Now a TV series by Netflix or now a major motion picture by whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate that.
Exactly. And would you gain the cover is a still frame of the TV show instead of the
Yeah,
yeah.
it's too
I
bad.
don't know. I don't know. I don't get it. Although I am sick of fantasy books with a sword on the cover, so
I mean, how many different ways can you have a sword in your cover? We're trying to find
well,
out.
well, apparently a lot.
Yeah,
But my God, it's a generic. It doesn't tell you anything. I want a cover that gives you an insight into the
yeah.
book inside. Um, and there's nothing less generic than a sword.
No, not much. And there's, I think there's lots of covers out there that are AI. We just haven't realized it yet. That just don't, you know. I don't think most people notice or care if a cover is AI. The general average reader just doesn't. They're not concerned with it. They're not concerned with it. They're concerned about the content. They're concerned about the book and story and characters. So they're not really too concerned about the cover.
Yeah, but so I know a couple of graphic designers, and then we can argue once again, are they creating, all they're taking is existing images, blending them, putting effects, distorting them a bit, and that final creation is all done on a computer. There's no artistic expression. They haven't put pen to paper. They've just been clicking on a mouse, and they have a deeper understanding than you and me about composition and color schemes and all the stuff. But then are we redefining what art is, or how we are creating art? That's a different conversation again.
Yeah, I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of the kind of the music industry with what was really big in the late '90s, early 2000s is sampling. Because we had a lot of musicians sampling other music and basically taking the song and adding a little bit to it and doing something, much worse over the top of it, and people would recognize the music and it would appeal to them because it's something that's familiar with to them. So I think that's similar. I think the argument has some similarities on, are you a musician if you sample existing music and collect music and create a song out of other people's music and then alter it and do something on top of it? Or are you just taking other people's creations and, for your own benefit?
Well, and then once again, there is some artistic merit in there to have that insight to go, oh, if I take these 4 beats from here and stick on top this piano line from somewhere else, yes, you're just blending elements. That has got some creativity, because otherwise anyone would do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it takes some know-how and some expertise to do it. But does that make you a musician, a quote unquote musician?
Yeah.
Does getting stock photos off the internet and altering them make you a quote unquote artist?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose if you're creating something, or instead of creating, if you're putting together something that people are willing to pay for, I don't know. You're a professional, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is for me anyway, is I don't care what if someone wants to create AI covers and sell them and people are buying them, then good on you, I guess. Just make sure that people know that you're buying a cover that was made by AI. Is just make that clear when you're selling your book covers that this is an AI book cover. Don't fool people like with Thomas or even Michael R. Fletcher had a book where his artist, I think, bailed on him or disappeared. So he paid for an artist and then they disappeared. So, if you're going to do that, then just be honest about it. That way nobody's surprised later.
Yeah. I think AI generates a very instinctive reaction. But I think it's probably because we're still in the early days.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it before. Once again, it is here to stay.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to learn how to work with it. And possibly, I've got a feeling all we know about it is image generation and ChatGPT, but possibly AI. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There must be something far more deep-reaching and far more elaborate that we don't know at all about. That has got much more serious implications, and that ChatGPT and image generation are just of no consequence.
Yeah. The biggest concern is the effect on the power grid and the demand it's putting on the power grids around the world is the amount of computing power it takes to do all this computing and the amount of power that it's sucking out of the grid. So I think that's concerning. And the price in memory right now, memory is expensive. because of the demand for all the computing power.
I've got a work colleague, one of the IT technicians where I work at, and he's also got a shop. They sell computers, and he said to me yesterday that the price of computers keeps going up, and whenever he's giving people budgets, either for a small business or personal computers or whatever, people are not even arguing. He's just selling, 1,500 plus computers, and people aren't even batting an eyelid. And for the regular user, if all you're doing is surfing the internet, watching Netflix, and sending emails, you don't need a $1,500 computer unless you've got like super complicated games, which are the more memory absorbing products out there. But
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
yeah, it's kind of over the top. Don't need it. So if you're just surfing the net and streaming and playing your, just watching movies or listening to music, you don't need anything that powerful.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, Steve, but I can hear noises, and I think one of my kids is reaching. I think Mum is gonna start calling me for help.
Yeah.
Soon.
So before you go, where can people find you?
I can be found on my YouTube channel, Jose's Amazing Worlds of Fantasy, the podcast, available on every major platform. Fantasy Talks Live, and of late, I've been checking, but I haven't been writing on the page 2 in forums because life and things. But definitely it's worth people having a look in there. Some great conversations.
Awesome. Thank you for coming by, and thanks everyone for listening and making us part of your day, and hope you have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you soon.